And we are live in the first number 0, because we are programmers and we are counting from 0, episode of Umbraco LUNGO. Callum, can you describe everyone what is the Umbraco LUNGO?
This has taken a long time, hasn't it, Marcin? Because we've been going for three and a half years now on Umbraco, and we've spoken about it on many episodes that we plan to do these longer form episodes, a slightly different format. Of course, Umbraco each week on a Friday, pretty much without fail. We don't really take days off. We do an episode where we talk about what's happened in Umbraco land this week. And we thought we'd do something a bit different occasionally. So the idea of this is once a month, in addition to the usual Umbraco, we're going to just chat about some things that have been on our minds.
And today, because we are, of course, it's hard to say in the middle, but we are on the beginning of the next quarter of this year. We wanted to focus on some trends and observations which we have as tech members, tech community members, and we wanted to discuss them with you and have some kind of loose podcast type discussion. And also feel free, if you're watching us live right now, feel free to put your opinions in the chat. We are seeing your comments here. If you have any questions or maybe informations which you want to add to the specific topics, feel free to add it. We will try to gather informations from the chat and from our notes and discussions and combine it all to something valuable for everyone. We are live, so we can see you here and your comments there. So yeah, we can start, Callum. And trend number 1, which we wanted to discuss, is migration to .NET 5. And migration in general, because we cannot talk about only .NET 5, but we are, as a .NET developers, we are the closest to this technology.
As .NET developers and Umbraco developers, of course, because later this year we'll be getting a version of Umbraco on .NET 5. So there's going to be a surge of us trying to migrate our projects from .NET Framework over, but also, as you say, not just in the .NET space. This is happening all the time, all over the place.
And we all know, as developers, exactly how painful migrations can be. And even referring to Umbraco here, we've been dealing with some clients upgrading from older versions to newer versions, even of the Umbraco itself. Right now, we are thinking about migrating between frameworks, and we even mentioned that last Friday. That it's like it's going to hurt, but does it need to hurt, Colin?
No, I don't think so. So the idea here, this is something that Microsoft have quietly announced, but it's been out there for a little while, is there is a magic button, not quite a magic button, but there is a magic command line tool that you can use to migrate your project from .NET Framework 4.5 something over to .NET 5, and it will update all of your dependencies. It will change the project format to be the new SDK format, and it will just work magically. So that's a really cool idea that I can, save all of my time and just run a command and be up and running.
Every time when I hear about magic buttons, it always sounds like a joke for me as a coder, because we all know that it's hard to hide something behind the button. But still, here you said the command line, command procedure, and application, which will do the migration, which sounds exactly like something what we really wanted to have. Even if we're talking again back about Umbraco, about the migrations between various versions or tools, here it's really, really needed. And again,
in V8, I made for the V7 V8 migration, I made my Golden Gate project, which did the same sort of thing, just to make the migration easier. But with this is going to become an integral part of the upgrade. I think. Imagine taking your Umbraco site for .NET Framework currently, running a command, and it migrates your code over to .NET 5. And of course, I should add that this tool is out of the box. It's going to migrate all of the kind of system things, but it's pluggable too. So you can put in some files to say, oh, when I do the upgrade, here's what Umbraco's interface was and what it is now, or here's what the package name used to be, and now here's what this is now, and it will run through your code and analyze and go and work it all out. It's very smart.
And it's like what I wanted to add as well here is like I'm really happy that Umbraco, which we use on a daily basis, is again just an application built on .NET Framework, and it will allow us to, as you've said, open the application, click this magic button or magic application in this case and enjoy the transformated version of the project, which might still need some kind of adjustments.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
as it is, it will be closer to be migrated again, and we will be able to just fix things rather than learn things, which probably is the biggest showstopper and the biggest delay in all the migrations processes.
Indeed, and if we look forward to the future, where Umbraco is going to be releasing a new major every 6 months, the .NET framework or .NET 6 is going to come out at the end of this year, .NET 7 the year after. We're getting new versions every year. Migrating and upgrading is going to become a far more frequent process. So having something like this, whereas, as we've said many times, it's just a magic button that you press and you get upgraded, that's a really handy tool. It's going to save a bunch of time.
Yeah. So yeah, people, let us know if you would use this magic button to migrate your projects to .NET 5. And yeah, we can't wait to see it released and to see it in action, and also to see also Umbraco from our perspective in the state to which we want to be willing to migrate in the first place. So
absolutely.
Fingers crossed on that, and that sounds really, really cool. And yeah, let's have it on the roadmap to play with it in the future. Number 2, which is also really, really interesting topic, and also related to the trends which we are observing here: remote work, remote environments, people hired and also working from various places in the world, in the various systems, various tools, require tools and software which is localized, which is available and accessible for them in this space, at least.
The Umbraco back office already supports a few languages, doesn't it? It's had
and even to Welsh, right?
To Welsh, yeah. So there's definitely a start to be made on products like Umbraco. But yeah, as you onboard new people from all over the world into your teams, it's nice to be able to give them tools and things that work in their language. And it's a real shame. It would be a real shame for people being put off from working with tools and technology just because they have to learn English or something like that. So,
but Callum, if we're speaking about English here, of course, I, as a kind of Polish guy, Polish dev, I needed to learn English to use some of the tools as well. I'm still learning, but you, as a native English speaker, still there are various versions of that English language, and we have some information, some sneak peeks from Umbracosphere, at least, where it's all going in terms of back office translations, at least, because you've mentioned Welsh, and we know that there will be new translations. And can you tell us more about what you find out?
Examples in the US, of course, they refer to the bin as the trash can or something, and in the UK we might call that the recycling bin. I don't know what the hell they'd call it in Australia. That usually ends in an O or an A. Bino, I have no idea. But yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't be translating for as you say, Polish, Spanish, Australian English, and US English, and I think we'll be seeing some of those kind of those kind of offerings coming to different products. Do you remember back in the day on Facebook when you could switch your language to pirate English, I think?
Yeah, that's, I'm smiling here because I've been attending some English lessons, and we were, exposed to those differences between English, US English, and Australian English. And I even watched recently an episode on YouTube from one of the YouTubers comparing some of the words, and I completely understand why it's needed. And again, it's still coming back to this kind of feeling not being excluded. If I'm using this kind of English on a daily basis, and that's my native language, why I can't use it there? And you've mentioned the recycle bin as an example. I believe, and I know that there is a lot of words like that used in Umbraco back office, at least, which needs to get their proper Australian or English US translations, and that's definitely a good trend and definitely a good thing which we can see right now. And even when you've been, because a lot of people in Australia uses Umbraco right now, and we have a strong community representation there. So it's like not doing that. It's maybe sad that it's happened so late.
They shouldn't have to mentally translate from whatever language they're used to using, or terminology they're used to using for certain things in the back office, to whatever it's actually been described as there. It should be kind of available in their native language. And I guess it's the same argument for Polish, isn't it? It's unfair that you're forced to mentally translate from Polish into English to use many of these tools. Why should Australians have to do the same? Like let's localize for everyone.
Yeah. It's good to see that. And as I've said, I'm really curious if really Umbraco, as we are talking about Umbraco mostly here, did they need to wait for V8 translation engine inside of that to make it happen, or it was something what forced them to finally do it? And yeah, we've done the research. Fortunately enough, we have some good friends in various various teams, and yeah, that's good to see. And it really fetches to all of these trends, exclusions, and all the stuff. Let's make it translated to every language in the world, and yeah, then keep them up to date, because that's also another thing which needs some attentions. But starting from English US, English Australian English, it's supposed to be easy. The English translation file is kind of the biggest one in the source code.
Exactly, easier to do their foundation to work off. And I was going to ask on this, what do we think about, of course, if we localize the back office, trash can to bin, what impact does that have on documentation? Because of course, if you're writing documentation that says to someone, and go to your recycle bin to check if there's any deleted items, but that's not nice if you're then used to dealing with the back office in Australian English. How do you switch? Do you think we'll see localization for documentation as well, that predominantly English?
I hope so. I saw how great Microsoft did it in their documentation, and how it's amazingly translated to Polish from English by machine translators. I can literally understand everything from that, and I can implement that just like that. I don't need to learn English anymore, so it's a job, by the way, but I need to. But then it needs to be done this way. It's just a step, and as we are talking about trends right now, I think small steps are required to make the big things later on. And here the challenge is probably here to make some switches, UIs, and all the translations or transfers between those versions there. But again, yeah, it's for the community, it's for people. So yeah, more translations the better. And let's see what else that will be on the agenda. I'm curious who will be doing these translations. Will it be some of the
maybe we'll see in Umbraco's case, maybe we'll see a localization or a translation team put together by the community. We could have a nice group of an UK English speaker, a US English speaker, an Australian English speaker, someone from Spain, from Poland, to each take on the role of helping translate. Of course, as well, it's always a tricky one. You've kind of got to have a good understanding of the product and also of English itself.
Context.
So it will need some. We'll need to find some good bilingual community members who can help do all of these translations.
That's why it's challenging. That's why it's so hard, and that's why it's becoming more important thing. As I've said, let's await. We will observe, and I will definitely try to help in Polish translations. So hopefully more community members will help their teams, their products, their software which they use, to make them more accessible for everyone. But you mentioned teams, and I think it's a good segue to another topic which we have on our agenda, which is a new trend of observing community and also companies. And we've placed here a polite teams, but the teams oriented on moderating the company or the
community friendliness. It's definitely an interesting one. We of course, the Umbraco community generally has been rather friendly and is a good friendly community. Most people in the community live and die by that ethos. But sometimes people need a little reminder. So could we see groups of people being responsible for just enforcing community spirit? And we're not just talking about in Umbraco here, because there's far less friendly communities in the world. It would be nice to see some of these different initiatives happening in different communities, having, as we said, a community police force that's responsible for enforcing a kind of a tone and how people want to engage. But a polite team is maybe a better.
Yeah, but right now it's fully driven from the downsides of the companies and teams. People are just usually replying or trying to force people to not be wrong in some of the opinions, or not share some of the opinions there. And I think the more lockdowns, the worse problem is, because people are getting more trying to be more visible, trying to be more I don't know, maybe even distracted, maybe frustrated, maybe and they scream about it. And that's why I see it as a trend, because it's really needed. Because if everyone has a voice, and everyone has their own opinions, companies and teams and communities needs to also have someone or something to clean up the visibility around them in their places in the web, at least, right? Because of course everyone can have their own voice. And here, if we were talking about teams, we know that Umbraco from our ecosystem is organizing a team like that. And we've been seeing some of this kind of problems exposed even this year, right? It's like miscommunication, some of the issues, some of the wrong opinions. It's hard to understand every emotion from a 280 charts in the Twitter string, right? It's like it's sometimes needed to go jump in, maybe organize some call, maybe organize some discussion, maybe some follow-up, some additional description or information to make it solved. And glad to see that Umbraco is starting this trend. And I'm really convinced that more companies, more teams will follow and have this kind of officers or teams to make the visibility of the companies more polite.
Yeah, it's definitely something, and this ties really nicely in with the next trend that we wanted to discuss, which is ties in nicely with the way that the world is and has been for the past 15 months now, with people always behind a computer. We don't really communicate in person anymore, at least for the next while, and that's changed how we engage as a community, how we engage in our workplaces, and also how we we don't have as many of these kind of social contacts as we had before through events, etc. So now, what trend are we seeing here with kind of hybrid life? Are we going to see in 2021 far more things that are both online and virtual? And that kind of idea of having someone to police, make sure that it's all running smoothly and it's all friendly still is probably quite important. So yeah, we think that we're going to see some hybrid events this year. I know for a fact that NDC have been doing a lot of big virtual conferences, and their plan is from September to go back to in-person events. But I think for a long time we're going to see this idea of a hybrid event where some people will dial in, some people will be there in person. Lost your audio, Marcin. No.
2 1 2 1 2.
Now you're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2.
All good.
Hello.
Hello.
All good. Yep. So I switched to my headset, and because of the noises in the background. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I was going to say that I don't like the word moderator, but it's like the moderators might be needed to make these events, to make these activities more organized. Because
how do you engage people? Because if you're at home on the computer and everyone's sitting in a room, it's always a challenge, isn't it? You need.
But that's also what you've shared from the Microsoft the point of view, and the last events which you've attended. They were trying to make the virtual rooms. How it was organized when it
comes to this. They had incredibly. For me, it just seems incredibly barbaric. But they had, for all of the social and the breakout rooms. This was at Ignite as well. All the social and the breakout rooms were in virtual reality, so you could sit at home with your headset on and kind of look around and talk to people as a form of socializing. And that's an incredibly interesting, an interesting move for people. The idea that being social involves sitting around at home on your own with a screen attached to your eyes is an interesting idea.
Yeah, but I've been attending the virtual wine tasting session, so everything is kind of possible, and logistically it's kind of getting more popular. So more companies will help in organizing more events like that. And a hybrid word in this case is kind of a buzzword or a keyword, because of course, we all miss the physical events, the normal type of events which we knew from and know from the past, and the mixture of that is going to be something like a translation mechanism for us from the new ones, which is completely online events, to hopefully be back on the normal type of the events, which we don't know from the past. And same with the workspaces. I saw a big discussion about it, and big thread on Twitter somewhere, shared by one of the really well-known CEOs somewhere, that there's no longer going to be an office-driven ecosystem or the mentality in the companies at all. People are right now hiring people from various places in the world due to their skill sets or abilities to do stuff, not just because they are living in the next corner of the office.
Umbraco HQ, where they've hired 5 or something people from the UK or thereabouts in recent months, and that's a testament to the fact that they've kind of expanded their view on hiring and said we can hire remote now, and it's a real possibility for people. Equally, when I'm looking at hiring people, coincidentally everyone is in the UK right now, but it's definitely not a strict requirement, and we want to find a way to make sure that those people are engaged with us, whether they are in an office, a home office, or sitting on a beach somewhere. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter. But it does put into question what's the future of an office, because the idea of having rows of desks and in a big room, I think is something of the past, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially that I observe it on my own team and company, because we've closed the London's office. And right now, even if we're talking about opening an office again, or opening an office space, or gathering somewhere together, it's like some of the team members say, oh, I really don't miss the traveling part of my life from the past. I'm doing great from my home right now. I might need a synchronization time from time to time, maybe. Not the exact building office space which is open every day, where every people are going there and leaving at 5 p.m. It's kind of changing. And what I like the most, because I'm working remotely since 10 years probably now, or even more, it's like it wasn't something new for me, but I was happy to observe that companies are switching their mindsets. You've mentioned Umbraco, who opened for hiring remote people before. It wasn't even a thing. It wasn't even possible to think about working remotely, despite of some of the unique examples. But right now, more and more companies are doing exactly the same. They are not closing their doors because people are from Poland or from somewhere else. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I don't see a future of offices like there were in the past, and I'm really curious how this hybrid will work, because of course there are some branches, there are some companies who benefits from having people in the same rooms, having people in the same spaces, and how it will work, because people also get used to some of the benefits which they have from being able to work remotely.
There are times where I miss being able to just turn around to someone and say, oh, what should I do with this? And we'll go, oh, we'll do that. And then 30 seconds later, a decision's made. Now that's a call or a half an hour Slack chat about something, and it's just not as efficient. So it will be very interesting to see what happens when those two virtual worlds and the kind of, as we go back to in-person stuff, as those collide again, where the intersection is going to be.
Yeah, and I think one thing here to mention is, like, in our specific branch is, like, for example, onboarding people or having new people in the teams. And you've said you've hired a couple people this year, for example. It's like it's extremely harder this way than in the real life, because this ad hoc help is really, really needed. And in the self-efficient teams, or in the senior teams, and the word which I don't like personally, the senior teams who are independently delivering stuff, and you trust these people, it's okay to do the things asynchronously, even completely, even 100% asynchronously. But if you have someone who will have questions, someone you need some help from someone else, and you need to wait for this help, that's definitely something what needs to be solved by this hybrid mixture of the stuff there.
Yeah, for sure. So, be an interesting time, definitely, this next year or two, as things move back to normal, or whatever the new normal will be.
Maybe to make it more interactive then, with some of the people who are watching us right now, let us all know in the comments how you are working right now. If you are doing a work completely remotely, or you are already thinking, or your company is already thinking about going back to the office maybe, or maybe setting up the hybrid ecosystem. I'm extremely curious how other companies are dealing with that, or what are their plans, at least to
Yeah.
it's hard to say get back to normality, but to set up a new normality in this
Indeed.
case. So that's number 4.
Marcin,
Yep.
don't you just hate writing code?
That's a good question. You know what my teammates said when I asked them one day what I should do less in my daily job. They said you need to write less code. And I said, okay, am I that bad? Am I that bad in writing my code? No, it seemed like I was really good in some other in other things, but I know what you are referring here to, and yeah, I think writing code is not bad, but writing code which is not needed is a bad thing, and that's another trend which we probably can discuss in a lot of the details, because it's a low code, no code approaches, or the power apps, power BIs, systems and stuff like that, which helps us. And it's not, I think the angle here which we need to take, and that's something what I really care when we are talking about this, is like, we don't need to be scared of that. It wasn't created to replace the programmers. It's not a danger for the programmers.
We're not just going to have a project manager saying, here's my spec, and then an AI writes the whole site.
But to be honest, we are not far from that. We are not that far from that. I saw the GPT-3 engines which were building UIs based on the Gherkin criteria of the use cases. And that's possible, but never. And I'm kind of confident about it. Never there won't be a situation where the programmer or someone who is still in charge of the final result will be not needed. But low code and no code is a thing.
Did you see the thing from Airbnb a few years ago where a designer could draw like a wireframe, and the camera would pick up from their pattern library which components that was, and would build the web page, the real web page, with just like blocks of stuff that they already had, components they already had, which is an interesting concept that maybe we could get towards that level of automation for certain things, but definitely not for everything. And also, we all know whenever we built tooling breaks. So maybe, and I know that Niels has spoken about this about Umbraco as well, saying he'd rather that developers stopped trying to reinvent the wheel every single day and focused on some more exciting things. So allow developers to install packages for a sitemap, and the sitemap just works, rather than building one every single time in every single site, because it happens. Like I know for a fact that I've worked on code bases that have slightly different implementations of the same feature across a company, maybe 10 times, and it's not great for developers' productivity.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I said earlier, that the worst part from my perspective is when we are writing code and then realizing that, oh, it wasn't needed to be written. And for example, when we're thinking right now about communication between tools, communication between systems. For example, when we are talking here, what if we want to, when we are ending this broadcast, we want to release it as a podcast or release it as a Slack note to gather some news. Of course, as a programmer, first thing is, okay, I will write the integration, checking the StreamYard APIs, checking the Slack APIs. And when it comes to the real life, going to the Zapier or tools like that, Pipedream, for example, 3 clicks and it's done. Yeah. It's like, of course we can do these things, and I'm not having doubts in programmers. We are really smart creators, and we can write amazing integrations. But do we need to write them? And this is the case. And someone mentioned in the past that low code and no code was created just to make some proof of concepts and exploration stuff. But I saw a fully functional systems who are making money, signing up customers, dealing with the massive databases, combining marketing tools, combining content tools, without writing any single line of code.
Indeed. So, yeah, and
again,
if you where you want a bit more flexibility, customization, then something like Logic Apps, which I'm familiar with personally, you can build your own steps. You can code those. So if you do really need something that does something very, very specific, you can build it still. But the plumbing that goes around it, about how it gets executed, about when and what it then does after that, is all controlled by these fantastic no code, low code, whatever you want platforms. And I think it's not something that in the Umbraco sphere, necessarily directly with Umbraco sites, we're going to have, but there's no reason you can't do Logic Apps alongside an Umbraco site. Or
but to be honest, I combine it. I combined it with, for example, lead pages, which is a tool which enables to build the websites, the lead magnets, the landing pages with some drag and drops, some data-driven integrations, which are possible to be done by completely non-technical people. And what I did in the integrations with Umbraco, I enabled lead pages to be embedded within the specific content trees. And in this case, we have the both worlds. We have a website which was untouched, and some of the landing pages which were built by non-technical people. So no code, no integrations, no stuff done. They are communicating with email marketing tools. They are communicating with some Slacks and other tools like that. No code involved. And it was embedded with small amount of code into Umbraco website. So again, it's a sad thing, which we see right now. It's like most of the things were already built. That's the sad message. And right now we just need to communicate them with each other, build solutions, not products.
Have we lost Marcin? Maybe. I think we've lost Marcin. Well, I guess I'll just continue then from where Marcin was.
Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, yeah. I was talking alone about some various things here. But the final message was that these things, we need to know them and don't be scared of using them, because they are here to help. And that was my final message.
Definitely. It's just another tool for your toolbox.
Yeah. But if we're talking about tools, that's a good transfer probably to another topic, which is not from our normal, at least mine and yours, work on a daily basis, because it's from front-end world. But we are talking about new tools, we are talking about frameworks, we are making a lot of jokes about a new framework every day from the front-end ecosystem, and it has stopped a little, in my opinion, at least.
It has definitely condensed. It seems like the community globally are kind of, let's talk JavaScript frameworks. They are kind of centralizing around React, Vue, Angular, maybe Svelte. I hear Svelte talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And then there's this new kid on the block, Blazor. Of course, jQuery. We've joked about this before as well, Marcin, but it does its job. It's all right. If you like and know jQuery, use jQuery. That's fine. There's definitely some consolidation. There's less things cropping up, and that's good to hear. But of course, it still brings into questions. Which one do you learn? Which one do we need to use?
Yeah, and you've mentioned that even during this week or last week, you've had a challenge to write some of the Vue code or Angular, I can't remember, and then you find out that the jQuery lines were shorter, were easier to read, and more.
So the equivalent in pure JavaScript, which Vue kind of leans you towards just using pure JavaScript. If you had to write the same thing in pure JavaScript, it was like 5 or 6 lines of JavaScript, and in jQuery, it's a single element and then the function, and it's done. And there's a lot to be said for that. It does do a lot of handy things.
Yeah, and also we've been seeing, and on our Umbraco office, normal Umbraco office, we were discussing recent movements on Umbraco teams, exploring the RFCs about the back office restructuring, the components part of that being done in the almost raw JavaScript, and also frameworkless. And in this case, we've been thinking, and we've did our research that jQuery won't be that bad, and it's heavily considered as a tool of choice, which kind of
it's an interesting
again
one because it's already there in the back office, jQuery. So it was there in V6. It's there in V7 as via JQ Lite, which is part of Angular JS, but also if you have full jQuery, you have that as well. And you can do it's come along a bit. Yes, it used to be a bit slow, and people would do things wrong. But if you know what you're doing with it, much like any tool, you can do some quite powerful things with it. And it's arguably the #1 known JavaScript framework of anyone anywhere in the world. You Google any JavaScript question, chances are you'll get a Stack Overflow article with a jQuery answer to it.
And as we said, I'm not a front ender, and first thing when I heard about it and when we found it out that it's heavily considered to be a tool of choice was no possible way that jQuery will be that. But then I started research and I found something funny about it, and I showed it to you, Callum. Even if it's a meme, even if it's a joke, it still shows why we cannot joke too much about it, because again, virgin frameworks, a lot of frameworks have a lot of dependencies. They are changing. We need to keep up with. We need to learn about it. Install some npms and so many crazy things to run them.
I deleted 3 projects from my computer this week, and I think it was something like 5 gig total for the project, and the majority of it was Node modules.
Yeah, when in the real life, exactly what you've said, jQuery, it's already there. It's a one line of code to be inserted there. It works everywhere. It does not change because it's not updated for so often. Few kilobytes of data, very easy to learn. And as you've said, knowledge materials are everywhere. So initially I was kind of scared and sad that we are doing a step back, but really the whole web is going in the circle, and we are coming back to the place where we are again using JavaScript.
jQuery itself has moved on a lot as well. We've got jQuery 4 now. Like it's not we're not dealing in jQuery 1 as probably most people's experience lies. So yeah.
And again, you can test it in the console easily. You don't need to really download any sources. You can build some scripts which will always work there. You have some bulletproof document on ready events, which are awesome to just be fired when the page really loaded.
Yeah, on ready, on load. I tried to do that the other day in Vue, find out, when a component has been mounted and everything within it is also loaded. How do you do that? You can't. But jQuery's got its nice document thing. And also syntactically, jQuery is nice and simple. It's kind of $selector, then the function. Whereas in JavaScript, you've got to go document, query selector, all there, pass the, iterate over the results, do whatever you need to do. It's far more verbose for getting started, for people learning. There's value in jQuery.
And again, jQuery is probably, and that's my guess, it's like a step towards vanilla JS, because again, it's just a wrapper. It's just a simplification over the raw JS, and that's why every browser, every device understands it. So in my opinion, abstracting it to this point is a kind of good decision, and I'm really right now I'm really happy that it's going to happen. I'm keeping fingers crossed to make it really simple and accessible for us as a package creators, because again, dealing with all the Angular stuff, communication between various components and locations of the application, services, dependency injections, it might be too scary for someone who especially started with Umbraco, and having none of that will definitely help new people to create something new for Umbraco.
Think of the components and the plugins that exist for jQuery, like jQuery UI is a fantastic. It's got so much stuff in it. It's got everything in it. You've got like sliders and tabs and accordions, carousels, all kinds of things, which that will just be available to everyone in the back office of Umbraco. In this case, where they could just install. Well, don't even need to. They write one line of code and it's kind of bootstrapped and it's there and it looks okay.
Yeah. And you've touched a really nice and interesting topic. I'm in a little bit async right now, from what I can see, but I'm using an old school internet connection. But the next topic on our list is exactly that. It's an old school UI and UX, which you've touched a little bit, talking about this components in the jQuery UI library, which I love and I use every day. And this is the old school UI and UX trends. And again, the whole web made a massive circle from all the tools like Vue.js, Blazor, stuff like that. Also new flat UIs and stuff like that.
I was going to say, from a design point of view, this is a trend, a big trend of kind of going back to how things were a little while ago. You'll remember, as I hope everyone kind of does, that the original iPhone really pioneered this idea of skeuomorphic design, things that look like real life objects, but in some form of digital UI. And that kind of died a bit of a death. And we replaced it with flat UI and material UI, which are these kind of far more block colors, bit bolder, but feeling very much more artificial. And then now we've got this new trend of neomorphic design, where you've got things that are still block colors and still maybe a bit, artificial, but applying some real world elements to them. So depth and shadows, which you would have on a real world object, and bringing those into this. So we're kind of really trying to simplify UI design in general. And then we'll see how that applies into kind of the products that we use and work with. I know that in Umbraco, they're doing their own little throwback, aren't they?
Yeah, the big one.
The big one. They're going to bring tabs back. Now, of course, I think whenever we see something being brought back, it's not necessarily brought back in quite the same way. So maybe we're going to see tabs like, on the left-hand side, or I don't know, some different
more tabs.
Yeah,
nested tabs.
Infinitely tabbable UIs and stuff. But there's been more importance put into familiarity of experiences rather than what's maybe totally pushing the boundaries of design. People are going back to more familiar things. Things need to be accessible, usable. More people are using technology.
Yeah, and again, here we have an amazing example in the Umbraco side. Is like we see how much discussions were performed around this topic when Umbraco announced the non-tabbed flattered UI with everything exposed in the back office. And again, it was cool at the beginning. We thought that this is a trend. You can see everything, and you don't need to click through the tab to see some other properties. But again, discussions happen. People behaviors are becoming more and more important, and tabs are going back. So we will definitely see more of that. We'll definitely see more of that old school UI comebacks, and that's why I really love. And if anyone else loves that as well, I love to get back to some Wayback Machines versions of the site to see how websites looked in the past. 10 years from now, 10 years back, or even more, to see how they were built, how they were looking, because sooner or later we will be thinking on bringing it back somehow. Maybe in the less details, maybe in some other representation, maybe more mature or more modern approach. But again, it's looping, and it's good to see that sometimes. But literally, it's really interesting to see where it will all go again.
And the chances are you could go on Wayback Machine and go back 10 years, and you probably find a site that, if it's using jQuery, would still work, because jQuery 1 kind of still mostly works. But then if you go 15 years, you're probably into like MooTools era, and it's definitely not going to work. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting exercise. Have a look. Go look at the Umbraco.com website from maybe not even 10 years ago, not that long ago. They had the kid
5
with no teeth on it and stuff. All kinds of throwbacks there.
But speaking about Wayback Machines, we can probably also talk about other topics, topic on the next topic on our list.
Yeah.
Would you like to use a Wayback Machine to go back 2 years from now and buy some Bitcoin or buy some more Bitcoin?
Yeah. I've done quite well with my Bitcoin recently, but I do wish, with hindsight, no, we could have, bought in when it was $30, not $6,000. Yeah, would be great to have a time machine, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So the next trend, it's hard to say trend because it's constantly trending through the years. It's like cryptocurrencies words. Right now we have NFTs. We have a lot of other tools built on top of the crypto tools, which is great to see. And again, back in the days, it's a great reference to this Wayback Machine, because I had an idea. I will be buying a Bitcoin every month for 100 euros. It was a couple of years back, and I was dedicated so much to that I've spent 3 months doing that, and then I forgot. And how happy I would be right now if I would be consistent and dedicated to performing this one more or longer at least. So yeah, cryptocurrencies are a thing. I still need to describe it for my friends. There is a lot of people right now, non-technical people, which is, I don't know if you see that as well. More non-technical people are asking questions about cryptocurrencies, how they can invest, how they can spend their money, why it's so cool, why you are all technical, geeky people are talking so much about it. And right now we have a new tools like NFTs, which is, again,
I think again the technical understanding of the why is still a very long way off, but people are definitely becoming more aware of their existence. This non-fungible token idea, this thing where you can buy digital assets, you can effectively buy the ownership, the rights to digital assets, and then, well, I don't really know what the purpose is. I know that Jack Dorsey sold the first ever tweet that was sent on Twitter. There's been some crazy cases of NFTs selling for like $3+ million.
And there was even a bot who sold some NFT for $700. Crazy things. But again, it's like making cryptos more present, and also being able to buy something for cryptos, which is probably right now is going to be more visible. And that's why we also place here an Umbra coins as an example, because a lot of companies, a lot of even influencers are creating their own cryptocurrencies. There is a BitCloud portal right now about which we will be talking about in a moment.
It's incredibly easy to set up your own blockchain crypto on Azure. They've got a blockchain service. You can set up a blockchain. You can
you can be a cryptocurrency.
You can create a cryptocurrency on off of Ethereum or something and run your own cryptocurrency. And if you look at what was it? Is it Dogecoin? Dogecoin was started by a bunch of people from Adobe as a joke, of course, and it suddenly became kind of successful because a lot of people on the internet sort of bought into the joke.
Elon Musk included, who also made a decision to invest more in Bitcoin and also allowed buying Teslas with Bitcoin. So it is a trend, and definitely I'm happy to see it more. And what I've also implemented recently, and some of the companies here in Poland implemented in their online courses, they implemented the ability to pay with a Bitcoins or another cryptocurrencies for the course materials. So imagine having this, back in the days, again, a couple of years back, if you would be able to get Bitcoins for something what you offer. And right now, value of these Bitcoins would be, it's hard to say 3 times, 5 times, 100 times more than you get.
I remember when I saw a web hosting platform many years ago, let's say 10 years ago now, that was accepting Bitcoin as payment, and it was $5 a month for something or 1 Bitcoin. And now you're paying the equivalent of $60,000 for that $5 thing. There's the famous pizza that was bought for 2 Bitcoin or something, and there's a Twitter bot that tweets daily. And the Tesla example you gave, where it's an interesting idea that you buy an asset like a car that depreciates with an asset, a digital asset that has so far only appreciated significantly. So you buy a Tesla for $70,000 right now. Let's just call it 1 Bitcoin. You buy a Tesla, and in 2 years that Tesla is worth 30,000, and in 2 years that Bitcoin might be worth $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and that's an insane transfer of value. You don't get the same from cash. It's definitely a bubble. It's definitely going to burst at some point, but there's a lot of hype around it still. And just when you think that interest is kind of waning and going to die, something new like this NFTs comes along, and people jump onto that as the next bandwagon. So I don't think this as a concept is going to disappear for a very long time.
Yeah, but also from another perspective, from kind of our, it's hard to say scare, but being scared of the situations around us. all the cryptocurrencies, all the countries, we have some doubts if every country or the whole world will deal good with the whole situation right now, the pandemic situation. So people are looking for some kind of, it's hard to say safer spaces, but diversified spaces to keep their money there. And who knows, as you've said, the Elon Musk and Tesla's movements are just confirming that someone trusts in that. So,
Yeah.
it's just building more confidence for all of the other people to, okay, maybe it's not that crazy or maybe not that wrong to put some money there. And who knows what it will do. And still, I'm kind of a safe investor in this area, but I believe in that, and I think it still will happen. And again, coins created. I don't remember when it was exactly, but there was an idea of building Umbra coin or something like
Umbra token, Umbra coins, or something where you could, you could exchange them as kind of a joke. You'd have blockchain-based high five you rocks or something.
Oh
yeah. Redeem for, I don't know, cloud credits. No idea.
But then we're right now talking about communities. Why not appreciate the company or someone else by buying assets? And this is where we are going with the next trend on our list, right?
This is a big one in the past year, as we've discussed with NFTs being a thing, but also actually the idea of supporting creators. We're not necessarily just talking about open source. Not necessarily talking about open source creators, but actually all kinds of creators. I know that this past year we've seen sites like OnlyFans and Patreon literally explode. People are using them for things that we didn't think they would be using them for before, or they weren't necessarily designed for. But equally, like we subtly put a link to our Buy Me a Coffee page, didn't we, Marcin? Yeah. And in one episode had an incredibly successful episode a few weeks back, which was very interesting to see. And it's great to see different ways people can support those creators. We were talking about blockchain as well. This new thing.
BitCloud is hot. A hot and trending topic right now. So it's a kind of social media platform built on top of the blockchain where everyone can register and create their profile. And the profile is a representation of this chain value or the cryptocurrency itself.
Of that creator's worth within that blockchain. So your profile is more prominent, the more valuable you are. I mean, it's a totally barbaric concept,
but to be honest, it's a barbaric concept. But all of the major investors are investing in this project. Everyone, all of the VCs and companies who invested previously in Twitter, Facebook, Instagrams, and all the big players on the market right now are in the investment round on BitCloud, which is crazy, and that's why it brought my attention at least. And again, in the combination with all the other efforts which we've done recently to make us more supported from the incomes coming not from our normal day job, it's like opening the ranges of perspectives for people like us, for companies, and for others. And maybe we can place a kind of a bigger announcement here, which we've been constantly delaying to the end of this episode. It's like we've decided after this great and successful launch of this Buy Me a Coffee profile, where we've gathered a lot of money already. It's more like
8 coffees or something bought for us, or 10 coffees bought for us.
10 coffees, yeah. That's more than we thought. So that's it was just a proof that we can do that, and I think we both needed that, right? We've both needed just this confirmation that this 8 coffees will enable us to run this coffee for another half an hour, and we can deal with that. And then I've made the decision. It came out that you've made the same decision at the same point, that we are reducing our involvement in other things and going to be fully supported, hopefully, from BitCloud and Buy Me a Coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, BitCloud, exactly. Like, focusing on us as creators a bit more than us as developers is definitely an interesting move. And exactly as you say, through I had my first GitHub sponsorship the other day as well. Thanks, Mark Drake. Like through all this support, it's given us the confidence that actually this is something we could do to kind of sacrifice parts of our careers for and incomes for.
I think it will be a good move. I'm not scared at all. And we've been also having some discussions with possible partners of the Amber Coffee episodes, such as Squarespace, for example, who might be a sponsor of our of one of the next episodes. So we are right now opening more for that. Yeah.
Vendor enough, we could at least get vendor to sponsor us in some way.
Yeah. We were always saying that we won't do it, but now it's kind of proved that it's possible to be done. And still, we don't want to lose our spirit. We don't want to lose our kind of point of views, because we want to change our point of views because we are sponsored or because we are received money or gifts from specific companies.
There's no harm in just like half an hour Umbraco Coffee episode, 20 seconds in the middle, quick, I don't know, Dollar Shave Club promotion or Squarespace or Wix.
Yeah, let's see. We will definitely announce more about it in the nearest future, but we are thinking and we are really hoping that it's going to open a wider spectrum of possibilities for us as creators and as Umbraco Coffee channel. So exactly. Yeah, again, fingers crossed.
Kind of related to this topic, I know that Marcin, you've talked about this before as well, that we could expand into some more partnerships and collaborations, and this is an interesting idea to try and monetize our efforts. Of course, monetization of your work is a tricky thing, whether it's selling licenses for software or whether it's putting ads in your YouTube videos. But there's other ways too.
Yeah, and I'm constantly writing this book, which I need to release, about this social media for busy programmers, and I had a whole chapter there about monetization. And I observed that this trend is more and more important these days, especially because people value their time more. And some of the people have more time. So they want to do something more with this time and exchange it for something. And again, the ways are different, and there are various ways of earning from the time dedications. And you can sell your time, your consultancy time, you can sell your services, but also you can sell your products. And despite of the fact, if it's an online course, maybe a sticker pack or something like that, I was extensively thinking and discussing with some of the companies here in Poland that I've decided that we will release a branded Umbraco coffee, which is a crazy idea.
Coffee, that's a good idea.
Again, it relates to our spirit. It relates to our kind of topic or the key topic of our activity, and it's so easy to be done. I have friends who have a roasters company. I don't know if it's the right name, but they are roasting coffee and they are importing coffee from various places across the world. Great coffee. I love it. I love them. And they are wrapping it in the branded packages. So only this package needs to change, and we will have our own branded coffee, and we can either send it for our supporters or sell it for someone who might drink a good coffee and maybe support us with various ways. So that's just one of the ideas, but more creators, more people are constantly exploring this area. And what we mentioned in the point 9 relates exactly to that, because there are various ways. There are so many new ways to get some money from the activities. There's no only Patreon right now. There's no only one site. There's no only one Kickstarter. There's so many places where we can ask for help, and the great ideas and also great communities. And that's why I think that this is all wraps great with the tone and the spirit of our community. Like, great communities can really rely on people. And if you are not invasive, if you are not salesy too much, and you are not, don't say hello if you won't pay me type of guy, it should be all right. And that's why I think it's getting more and more important these days.
Definitely. Wow. So, I mean, that's our 10 points, isn't it? The 10
points.
And as we said, this is LUNGO. This is supposed to be a longer Umbraco Coffee episode. The idea is that normally it's not happened recently, but Umbraco Coffee episodes should really be 20 minutes. And this should be our longer once a month type thing. But,
discussion type.
Do we want to confess?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone noticed. I don't know.
I mean, what's the date?
Yeah, it's April 1st.
It's 2:00 according to my calendar on April. And I've got a few messages I've got a message here from Matt asking if there's sponsor slots in Umbraco Coffee. Because we're not really sure either.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our preparations for this episode. And yeah, we can confess. some of you might remember our last year's April Fool's episode, which we made a lot of fun from various topics. And of course, today,
especially jQuery.
especially jQuery. And today, we've decided to share 10 trends from which 5 were not exactly true.
Yeah.
And I think we can make it a challenge. We can make it a challenge. I'm extremely curious if there are some people who will guess which ones of them were fake and which one of them are true. And maybe we can then send some coffee beans, Umbra Coffee branded coffee beans and Umbra Coffee mug to the person who will guess first. And I think
Matt has pointed out to me on Slack that you're only supposed to do April Fools up until 12 noon. However, we did start this at 12 UTC, which was the
we are time zone independent.
Yeah, but no, have a look at everything we've said. There's some things in there which are maybe too good to be true, which may be true, and some things that are not true, that absolutely don't look like they're true and could well be true, and whatever. It
should be easy. 10 things, 5 are true, completely true, and 5 are partially or 100% fakes.
And of course, to be very clear, LUNGO is not an April Fool's joke. We are genuinely be doing this once a month is the idea.
I had one message today in the morning, if we're really doing something today after your initial tweet. So that's why I really wanted to be on time, because if we will be late, people will say, oh no, April Fools. No, LUNGO is a thing. We are going to do longer episodes every month. It's not a joke. But we wanted to kick it off with a proper occasion, and this day just literally came in the right time. So I really hope, and we really hope that you enjoyed, and you agree or disagree with some of the trends which we shared today with you. And please leave us some comments with your answers and guesses from number 1 to 10. Which of them were true and which of them you think were false and fake. And we promise that we will do some kind of follow-up and announce some of the winner or winners who will receive some of the goods from our side and will be definitely appreciated on our future episodes. I had some fun, Callum. I really had some fun.
I couldn't quite say the word Squarespace.
It's hard to pronounce for me, It's like cool. So that's I think that's all. We really made it on time. 1 hour, great length of the episode. We still have some people watching, and great to have you here. And again, Callum, we didn't make the decision, but we are probably going to see each other.
Probably see each other tomorrow. It's a public holiday in the UK. It's Easter, but you're working, and still some Umbraco people working somewhere. So thanks, Jason, for saying I kept a straighter face than last year.
It wasn't that easy. It was, but to be honest, this year we were having a training before, so it wasn't a complete freestyle this time. But thanks all for joining us today in this unusual timing, and hope everyone who will be watching that from the recording, everyone is invited to participate in this fun. And we're coming back to work and the fun which is everywhere in the internet today. See each other tomorrow on the standard Umbra Coffee. And cheers. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks, Callum.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.